Mother Nature can be absolutely terrifying. But sometimes, the strangest disasters in history are not natural at all. They are bizarre, freak events, often caused by simple human mistakes that sound far too strange to actually be real. Today, 6 of the most unusual disasters ever recorded. We have got a city drowned in a giant wave of syrup, a summer that simply never arrived, a town that has been on fire, underground for over 60 years, and a cheerful publicity stunt that turned into a falling sky of rubber. Every one of these really happened. Let's get into it. On January 15, 1919, in the north end of Boston, disaster struck in the strangest possible form. A massive storage tank, standing 50 feet tall and filled with over 2 million gallons of molasses, suddenly burst. What followed was a wave of thick, sticky molasses, reportedly up to 25 feet high, surging through the streets at an estimated 35 miles per hour. Now, you might think that a syrup flood sounds slow and harmless. It was anything but. The dense wave had the sheer force of a tsunami. It tore buildings clean off their foundations, crushed a section of elevated railway, and swept up everything in its path, people, horses, and wagons alike. And because molasses is so incredibly thick, victims caught in the wave found themselves trapped, unable to escape as it slowly pulled them under. Tragically, 21 people lost their lives, and around 150 more were injured. The cleanup took weeks, and the harbor was reportedly stained brown for months. For years afterward, locals swore that on hot summer days, the whole area still smelled faintly of molasses. In 1986, the city of Cleveland, Ohio, tried to set a world record and accidentally caused a disaster. The plan was simple and seemingly joyful. To raise money for charity and gain some publicity, the city decided to release 1.5 million balloons, all at once. They spent months filling them with helium under a giant net in a downtown square. Then, the big moment arrived, and they let them all go. At first, it was a genuinely breathtaking sight, a massive, colorful cloud of 1.5 million balloons rising up into the sky. But then, things went very wrong. A cold front and rain rolled in and pushed the enormous mass of balloons back down toward the ground, the sky filled with descending balloons, which blanketed the entire city and the surrounding area. They covered roads and caused traffic accidents. They landed all across Lake Erie, where they reportedly hampered a Coast Guard search for 2 missing boaters, who were tragically later found drowned. The balloons spooked horses and littered the landscape for miles around. What was meant to be a joyful, record-breaking celebration instead became a notorious environmental fiasco. In the summer of 1858, the city of London was brought to its knees, not by a war or a plague, but by a smell. For years, the River Thames had been used as a giant open sewer. All of the waste from a city of millions of people, both human and industrial, was dumped directly into the river. Then came the summer of 1858, which was unusually hot. The blazing heat baked the raw sewage piled up along the riverbanks, and the stench that rose from the Thames became absolutely unbearable. It was so foul that it became known simply as the Great Stink. The smell was so overpowering that it disrupted the entire city. The curtains in the Houses of Parliament, which sat right beside the river, were reportedly soaked in chemicals to try and block out the odor. Politicians seriously considered abandoning the building entirely and fleeing the city. But in the end, the Great Stink actually did some good. The unbearable smell finally forced the government into action, funding a massive new sewer system that transformed the city. And so, modern sanitation was born, out of the stench. The year 1816 is remembered by a chilling nickname: the year without a summer. It all began a year earlier, on the other side of the world. In 1815, a volcano called Mount Tambora, in modern-day Indonesia, erupted. It was the most powerful volcanic eruption in all of recorded human history. The explosion blasted an enormous cloud of ash and gas high into the atmosphere, where it spread around the entire globe, dimming the sun itself. The effects were felt the following year, in 1816. Across the northern hemisphere, the climate went completely haywire. In the very middle of summer, it snowed in New England and in Canada. Killing frosts struck in June, July, and August, destroying crops across Europe and North America. Famine spread as the harvests failed and food prices soared. It was one of the worst famines of the entire century. But this strange, gloomy weather had one surprising side effect. That summer, a group of writers were trapped indoors by the endless rain near a lake in Switzerland. To pass the time, they held a contest to write the scariest story they could. And from that gloomy, sunless summer, a young woman named Mary Shelley created the novel Frankenstein. On the morning of June 30th, 1908, in a remote region of Siberia, the sky itself exploded. Witnesses living dozens of miles away reported seeing a brilliant blue light, almost as bright as the sun, moving across the sky. Moments later came a blinding flash, and then a colossal explosion. The blast was so powerful that it knocked people clean off their feet from over 40 miles away and shattered windows for hundreds of miles. The explosion flattened an estimated 80 million trees across more than 800 square miles of forest. The trees were knocked down in a strange radial pattern, all of them pointing away from the center of the blast. The explosion is believed to have been around 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb that was later dropped on Hiroshima. So what on earth caused it? The leading theory is that a large meteor or comet fragment, perhaps 200 feet wide, exploded in the air before it ever hit the ground. And remarkably, because the region was so incredibly remote, it is believed that not a single person was directly killed. Had it struck a major city, the death toll would have been catastrophic. Our final disaster is one that is still happening right now as you watch this. Centralia, Pennsylvania, was once a perfectly normal small town, home to over 1,000 people. But beneath the town lay a vast network of coal mines. In 1962, a fire started. The most accepted theory is that the town was burning some trash in an old pit, and the flames spread to an exposed seam of coal deep underground, and that coal fire never went out. The fire crept silently through the underground mine tunnels, spreading slowly beneath the entire town. Over the years, the ground itself became dangerously hot. Smoke and toxic gases began rising up from cracks in the earth. Roads buckled and split open. In one terrifying incident, a young boy nearly fell into a sudden sinkhole that opened up beneath him, billowing steam. Eventually, the government gave up trying to fight the fire altogether and relocated almost everyone, condemning the town. Today, Centralia is a near-deserted ghost town, with smoke still seeping eerily from the ground. And experts believe the fire has enough coal left to keep on burning for another 250 years. And there they are. 6 of the strangest disasters that history has to offer. A tidal wave of syrup, a sky raining balloons, and a town that simply will not stop burning. These bizarre events are a perfect reminder that disaster does not always come in the form you would expect. If you survived this one, then do me a favor and hit that subscribe button for more weird history every week. And tell me down in the comments which of these disasters surprised you the most. I'll see you in the next one.